Hello and welcome to this episode of Pixel Journey. This episode will be showcasing an early access indie game that I was lucky enough to get a Steam code for thanks to Minimap. So thank you for letting me play this game. I probably wouldn't have found it without the code, so I really do appreciate that. So today's game is called Cowboy 3030. So essentially the game is you pick one of 6 unlockable characters and you go through and you'll be fighting through room after room of robots. So each of the little cowboys that you can play as have their own name, they can use different guns, and they also have unique to them abilities. So each will have 2 different abilities and a grid-based power-up system that we will talk about a bit later. So because each cowboy has their unique kind of set of skills, you can truly find someone that you will kind of mesh with best. Mine was the 3rd unlockable character named Terry. I really liked him because he has kind of this multi-hit effect to where he can shoot guns that can shoot like 4 pellets at a time. So this game, it's very simple, very kind of mindless go and play in like the best way. So you will select your character and you will go into these rooms, and it's kind of like a roguelike in a way, to where each room will be randomized and you will go through wave after wave of these different robots that will attack you. And so each enemy has one of 2 types of like overall attack. They will have blue or red for their bullet or any kind of wave that they attack you with. And so this is kind of where some strategy might come in. So if the attack is red, you can dash through it and avoid any damage. But the blue, by base default, you cannot. Now for some, I don't know if this is all of the cowboys, but there is a special power-up in their grid that, again, we will get to in a second, that allows you to also dash through the blue. But by default, you can't. It's only the red. And so your job is to avoid, dodge, barrel through any of these attacks coming at you and defeat these robots and then move on to the next room. So there's about 3 or 4 different baseline robots that you'll be fighting in these rooms aside from the boss rooms. So the lowest is the red colored robot, then you have blue, and then you have yellow, and then you also have green. The red, blue, and yellow will all be found in the same room, and they will go accordingly, red being the lowest HP, and yellow being the highest HP. In some rooms, you will only get about 2 or 3 green robots, which are pretty high in health for these kind of default enemies. And so those are the main 2 types of rooms that you will run into. And in these rooms, there will be different obstacles that you can hide behind. There are houses, there are like carts, there's rocks and stuff. Very Wild West themed settings, very nice. And there are also different chests that I recommend defeating the enemies first and then unlocking them. And this is how you will upgrade your weapon. So there are different types of guns, and you will be able to see the amount of damage they do. You will see the firing rate, the reload speed, and like the amount that the mag can hold. So very easy to tell when you are getting an upgrade, which is very nice. It's very blatant. I always look at what does more damage. And there's one cool weapon that you will find on occasion, and that is a straight up just tomahawk. And you will just throw it at people. It is very hard to aim because you really have to figure out where they're moving to. But if you hit an enemy with the tomahawk, it is very satisfying. So throughout these rooms that you are finding, you will sometimes come across these enemy-free rooms, and you can kind of take a minute, breathe, and go through your grid. We'll finally be getting to the grid-based power-ups. So each cowboy, just like their unique abilities, also have a unique little power-up grid. So every so often, as you go through and you're defeating these robots, you will level up and get 1 point to spend in essentially this grid-based skill tree. And so a lot of these are very basic. They'll be like increase move speed, increase reload speed, and just really simple stuff like that. And it'll be a very low percentage that it increases. And so if you get to these enemy-free rooms, you will have the option to buy these kind of Tetris-like pieces. Some of them will be like angles, some of them will be full squares, and you can place those on top of your grid and increase the percentage that the buff gives you. Those will be on one section. There'll be a machine that can increase the percentage of these blocks as well, so you get like 2 buffs in one. And then next to that machine, there's actually a like special buff that you can place, because there will be a few. Like I mentioned earlier, there's one that allows you to dash through the blue attacks. There'll be some that will, if you're around an enemy, they'll do damage. Like, really cool, and you will read through and probably end up going towards those special blocks as you build out your grid. And then the last thing that these rooms have is kind of a dangerous thing. There'll be this kind of standy like puppet thing off to the side before you exit the room, and these guys will either be telling a true fact or lying. A lot of the times in these rooms there are civilians that will run around, and it will say, oh, all of these civilians survived, or oh, 3 civilians died during this run, or hey, you've met this character so many times. Now, if they're telling the truth and you go and you talk to them, you will get a free level point, but if not, you will take damage. So if you do want to interact with these guys, make sure that you are keeping track of stuff like civilians and who you're interacting with, so you don't take random damage. A lot of the times, if I'm not keeping track, I will just full on skip it unless it's blatantly obvious, like I didn't kill any civilians and it's agreeing with that. I'm very careful with that if I'm on a really good run. So once you go through so many rooms, you will eventually come across a boss, and the bosses are actually very, very cool in this game. Each have a very unique design, and they will have unique attack patterns, and it's very fun. They will take an aspect of the game's like attack style and just modify it to fit them. And these bosses can be hard, so if you're closer to a boss or an enemy, a lot of the times you'll hit harder. And some cowboy skills require you to be within a certain range of an enemy for it to actually go into effect. And so this is very give and take on how close you want to be, because a lot of the times they have bigger range of their attacks. So if you get close, you're risking getting hit with an attack and possibly failing your run, but you can also get off an attack that might stun them, and you can get off big damage. So it is very, very risk heavy for what you want to do. So whenever you do defeat a boss, you will get a bunch of gold that you can spend on like those blocks that I talked about to help boost the percentage of your buffs. We will talk about a healing machine that will come up. Probably, it's usually like right after the boss section, but we'll get to that in a second. You'll also get one of those power-up blocks, and it, I think, is already at like 60%, whereas the normal ones are typically about 40%. And then they will also lay out 3 different gun upgrades that you can choose. And so once you're done with that, a lot of the times you will find kind of this secondary rest point. And to start off, a woman will always walk up to you and kind of update you on how many civilians have survived, and then give you 3 options. In this room, there is a healing machine, and you can either choose to have the machine cost less to use, give you 150 health points instead of the typical 100, or have your default HP raised by 50 points. So for me, this room is very important because this is where I will get back the health that I've lost throughout my stupidity in my runs. So I will hit that. There'll be a level up point machine right next to it, and then some more of the blocks that will raise your percentage. So this is essentially the game loop that you will be going through. So the place that you start, that is one environment, and you will go through 2 bosses in that environment, and then you will actually go to a new kind of biome. And there are 3 in total, and once you've defeated all of that, you've actually completed a run. Now, when I was first going through it, I had no idea how long this was. I wasn't sure if it ever actually ended. And so whenever I did hit that ending, I finished the boss and I got my first win. It was actually so like invigorating, and I was so happy. It was like way late at night. I should have been in bed like an hour ago. And it was, to me, it stupidly made staying up like really late worth it. I was so tired the next day, but I'm just like, but I got my first win. It showed up as an achievement on Steam. Like, it's very much one of those games that you don't rely on your abilities or stuff like that. There's no like OP weapons. It is primarily you and your skills that you have developed throughout the runs. And you will very easily improve your skills in this game. It is the more you play it, the better you get. You will recognize the attack patterns. You will figure out how to use the environment to your advantage. You will figure out, I like this cowboy because of this thing. I like this gun because of this thing. And just figure out your own style and your kit that you want to get to. And you will be able to go really far in your runs. And because it is very skill-based instead of just relying on something like RNG, it does feel like when you take a hit, 9 out of 10 times it's because you screwed up or you took a risk that didn't pay out. And when you die, it's that moment of, man, I screwed up, I could have done better, and that will loop you into, I'm going to do one more run. I can't leave the night on that note. So after you get your first run, you will unlock Havoc mode, and it's just a more amped up version. I actually have not been able to clear Havoc mode. I've come very close, but there's just something. I'm not the greatest at shooters or roguelikes, so being able to clear just the base version of this was very much an accomplishment of its own for me. But yeah, there's more content even after you clear a run, and you can also try and clear it with each cowboy. There's achievements for that, and it's just very, you can have as much content as you make with this type of game. It has a huge replay factor into it, just built in with the different characters, with the Havoc mode. There's a bunch of achievements on Steam for it that are really satisfying, and a lot that you will just get by simply playing the game. There's luckily not a whole lot that you have to like go out of your way for. Of course, there are some multiplayer ones because you can play with friends on here. I have not really mentioned it because I play 90% of my games solo, and so I really don't get to experience the multiplayer, but you can have up to, I believe it's 4 people total, play together and take on these robots as a group. So I highly recommend, if you want to try this game, try it out. If you have friends that kind of like roguelike, cowboy, western style shooting, try it out as a group. I bet this would be so much fun as a group. The controls are very tight, very responsive. The way that I describe the shooting is when you shoot at an enemy, like that is how I wanted Overwatch to feel. And I have no other way of describing it, but it is so satisfying. It feels good. It feels clean. Like you were hitting the shots that you think should be hit. It is very, very clean. Now, as I said in the very beginning of this video, I am playing this in early access. If you're watching this video in the future and you're just like, why didn't you talk about this feature? It's probably because it was not in the game at the time that I played it for this review. So I do highly recommend this game. If you like shooters, if you like roguelikes, this is a perfect combination. It feels great to play. The controls are amazing. The art style is cute. It has amazing replay factor. I think this is worth the money. I think this is worth the time that you will spend playing it. And if you have friends that like this style as well, I think that this can be just an entire like night of fun, and you will come back to it. It might not be something that you play every single night, but it is certainly something that would be perfect for a night to where you're tired playing like Valorant or something and you want something a bit different. This is perfect. So that is really all I have to say on this game. An adorable little game that was hours of fun for me, very satisfying. I do recommend it. And yeah, if you have been moved to try this game out, let me know in the comments. If you have tried it out yourself, please let me know your experience down in the comments below. I would love to know them. and I will hopefully see all of you guys in my next review or somewhere else on this channel if you do like gaming content. We have a bunch here on the channel, so make sure to check it out. Bye guys!